My name is Apollo Eric Ochieng Omer. I'm the CEO and founder for Bitlipa. So Bitlipa is an infrastructure for digital payments and settlement for businesses. What we're trying to work on is build these rails through which finance can move to help small and medium-sized enterprises be able to digitize the entire payment cycle, from sourcing, paying your suppliers, to also processing the end merchant payments. We do settlement in crypto, stablecoins, but the collection and processing of fiat on the back end. We also have an exchange in the back end. And the goal is to make sure that small and medium enterprises actually can get access to capital, because we're trying to put all this information on the blockchain so that LPs or liquidity providers can have access to businesses which are not even registered, but we have proof of existence of the business. Because if there's transactions, if there's a physical location, they don't necessarily have to have even a license, because as long as they're buying and selling, and we can prove based on the transactional data, which is verifiable on the blockchain, then we're able to now invite people who can then provide them with short-term working capital to be able to accelerate, grow, and expand their businesses. Because it's important, small and medium-sized enterprises actually form the backbone of the African economy. So they employ most of the people, they provide almost all the e-commerce or commerce in the region, and I think they need support in terms of small working capital. And based on this data, we are able to provide that. The value that blockchain can provide is doing away with all the intermediaries who are involved in the value chain when it comes to payment processing. Today, we are losing up around 3.7 billion in terms of just, this is in US dollars, in terms of just transactional cost and the frictions involved, because there's so many intermediaries and layers, and therefore you need to be able to establish trust. That's why all these intermediaries exist. But with blockchain, we're able to establish trust among all the participants in the supply chain without necessarily having you prove that actually I have a business. And I think if you talk about the cost of transactions also, we're able to bring it down to almost negligible, because I would say BSB blockchain is one of those blockchains where cost really comes down to almost zero. And you're talking about small and medium-sized enterprise whose margin is very small. So they need the cost of transaction to really come down. And I think blockchain is the only tool, technology right now, that can make that possible. I think there is a big population of young people who are well educated, who are very ambitious, and they want to learn more about technology and use it to benefit themselves and the communities around them. And it's a growing population. So in my country, I'm 36 years old and I'm one of the oldest people, because the median age is around 2019 right now. And these people, they want an opportunity and access. And I think blockchain levelizes the playing ground for all of us to be able to join in the digital economy and participate effectively. So I think this is a very big value that needs to be harnessed, because the young people, if you don't engage them meaningfully, it's a ticking time bomb. And I think we need to find a way to really bring them into this digital economy and meaningfully participate. There are so many players, there's a lot of exchange of data and so many transactions involved. And you want to be able to really build trust among the participants, and also just make sure that if there's a bad actor, we're able to identify them early on and knock them off. And BSB blockchain is one of those blockchains that at infrastructure layer, you're able to really establish this kind of use cases. And I think even beyond that, making data user-centric, because our economies are very creative. So Nigeria is doing so well in terms of music, in terms of films, and they generate a lot of digital content. How do we do away with all the intermediaries and make sure that if I'm generating content, that it goes directly to my followers or my users? And then payment, can also come directly peer-to-peer to me. Data is like oil or gold. And I think we need to figure out the best way to harness it, because every time you click, every time you post, every time you're talking, you're transacting, you're generating data. But right now it's in the hands of third parties, and they're making trillions of dollars out of everyone who's participating. And I think blockchain, really, BSB blockchain, is really the best way to be able to level this playing ground and bring the power back to the people who are actually producing this data and information. What excites me about BSB blockchain the most is how open source it is, and how everyone can just join in and participate in the ecosystem. The warmth of the people involved, and the fact that I'm in supply chain financing and transaction, And it's one of those technologies that brings down the cost of transactions. Excites me the most.